let's kind of hit on that, man. I've taken over an organization as well, 30 years old, just needs
Yeah,
a
you're
lot
more
of work.
courageous than I was. I had to be 60 to do that.
Oh man, it is actually. So I started my own nonprofit at 22 years old, right?
Yeah,
And this is starting a nonprofit from ground zero was very challenging, but I was
crazy
able to
hard.
manage some things,
People have
right?
no idea how hard. It's not just the startup capital, it's all the governance boxes you have to
Yeah,
check with the IRS, with the state or the district here in the district. So it's just a lot of heavy lifting.
it is. And for a young individual like myself, I was 22, 23 years old. Like, just imagine, I knew nothing about the nonprofit world because one, high schools don't talk about the nonprofit world. I knew I wanted to give back. Someone said you should start a nonprofit. I'm like, what is that? I got everything, I got an attorney, got everything legalized. But anyway, so I was doing the nonprofit and I felt like I wasn't really reaching the kids in my community I wanted to.
Mm.
So I said, you know what? Let me go back to my old high school. So I went back to old high school and I
What
started
high school is
mentoring
that, by the way?
Edgewater High School in
Mm-hmm.
Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
So I started mentoring young men. It was men of color, and every Tuesday they would show up in bow ties. So guess what? Every Tuesday I show up in bow ties, right? Because we had to be that leader. We also had to let them know if we're asking you to do it, we're going to do it ourselves. So I'll show up, and we had a great time doing that. And then I found out there was actually a foundation. So I went to the school, never knew this foundation existed. No one knows this foundation exists, to be quite frank. They're 30 years old. They have almost $600,000 in an endowment, but they're only making $25,000 a year, Ralph. So I go in there and I'm thinking like this is crazy. This is a 60-year-old school. The school itself, I believe I'm not mistaken, was like 1952 it started. So there's a lot of legacy in this school. There's a lot of alumni. There's a lot of great people. Why are we not tapping into it? Why are we not selling alumni merch? Why are we like just low hanging fruit, right? Why do we not have data? Why do so going into this is I'm in here, right? And I'm bringing it.
You're
It's a
the
little
right kind of
challenging.
nerd to do this, man. Talking data. I love that.
It's challenging, and I realize that as we mentioned offline, we have to start going to the chambers. We have to tell the stories. But you went further than that. You said you have to know your numbers. Why is it so important, Ralph, to know your numbers as you're scaling up as
We
well?
talked about this, so you don't get bored while I talk about this on the podcast, just because you've heard this already. Some has been blessed with lots and lots of faithful, steadfast donors. Some who have been invested in some for 3 and 4 decades in many cases. And I told you, I love the fact that our donor base, a lot of them are faith driven. So this their support of us and our ministry is literally part of their actionable faith, if we will, for
Hmm.
Christians putting the gospels to work in their day-to-day lives. For people of other faiths, it's an expression of that faith. I believe in Judaism they refer to it as Abu Da, which
Hmm.
is an expression of uh, action, faithful action and support and help of others as an expression, an act of faith. So most faith traditions recognize this. And so a lot of our donors see us as the vehicle to expressing their faith day in, day out. And so we're blessed to do that. But as I told you, it ain't just about thanking people for being charitable. I don't want that to be our only play. If that's our only play, this is not sustainable for another 6 decades. I want people to look at us as a great eleemosynary, a great charitable investment, which means if they invest, I want them to see themselves as investors, just like they would do with their finances, their money. They're not going to give their money to a financial advisor who isn't going to make him any more money. So
Yeah.
I often tell people I want folks to see some as um, the vehicle to provide wellness and services and sanctuary for vulnerable people and families that does that in a highly leveraged way. That is to say, we're the we're the Goldman Sachs of human services providers for vulnerable communities. So if somebody, and what I mean by that is, I look, there are a million great charities out there. People can put their dollars anywhere they want,
Yeah.
but the young people now, with their ability, with the apps that allow them to be their own grant makers, in deciding between where to put their dollars, if they're smart, charitable investors, they're going to say, where do I put my dollars where I get the most bang for the buck? That is, where I get the most human gain from my investment. So I want to have data. We at some, you might imagine, in 6 decades, we have tons of great stories, and those narratives are compelling and necessary for people to hear. But at the end of the day, we also have to be able to tell them what the data says. When we tell them what our mission is, I told you this when we first talked, our mission is easy to state and hard to do. That mission is to save lives, improve lives, and transform the lives of vulnerable people and communities. That's our mission. Easy to say. Then the question becomes, hey, are you doing it? And if you're doing it, how do you know you're doing it? Well, we know it because we study our work. And we look at, okay, I think I told you we did a study a couple years back to try to understand what is the value of the emergency services we provide for the street homeless and other vulnerable people in our community. And I think I told you my analytics team said for every dollar our donor invests in us in the emergency services space, we provide $52 worth of services. So it's a 52 multiple. And I think I
Yeah,
told you when I first heard that, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. That can't be right. Go
that's good.
back and look at your methodology. They came back and said, no, it is 52. And then I
That's
thought to
good.
myself, hey, look at how the Urban Institute analyzes that return on investment metric. Follow what they do and then tell me what the number is. And they said it's still a 50 plus multiple. And then I thought to myself, even if we're wrong by 50%, hey, I'll take I'll take a 25
Yeah,
multiple. Heck, I'll take a 10 multiple. If you're a financial investor, won't you take a 10 or 20
absolutely.
multiple? Of course you will. In the market, a 15x trading multiple is a great trading multiple for investors, financial investors. So I want to be able to look at those folks who are in, I think I told you we have some very generous donors in the private equity space, and they're used. How are they doing as well as they're doing? They're doing well because they're figuring out how to take businesses and create bigger multiples based on what the business is earning year over year over year over year, and then taking that out to a terminal exit number and discounting that number to present value, the discounted cash flow analysis for those business school junkies. So I know those people are used to hearing what's the trading multiple here. And so I want to be able to tell them what our human gain multiple is, right? A dollar a sum, you're not going to get a dollar of services for vulnerable people. A dollar a sum, you're going to get a 20, 30, 40, 50 multiple. So I want to be able to say, yeah, we got great stories, but we also have great data. So that's the financial metric I want to be able to tell them. But then somebody might say, oh, that's all well and good, but are you actually saving lives and improving lives? What do those life outcomes look like that you claim you have? Well, we have those too. We know when we treat somebody in our medical clinic, we know we're going to make them better. We've got years and years of health data to back that up that says when somebody hits our platform, they usually have multiple comorbidities, diabetes, heart disease, tooth decay, a whole bunch of things. Um, and we make them better. And
Yeah.
because we obviously keep those health outcome metrics. So two sets of metrics have to be great for our investors, right? That we're actually doing what we say. We're making people better. We're saving them. We're improving them. We're transforming them. Have to be able to show that, but also have to be able to show them that we're doing it in an economically, a financially highly leveraged way. So it's not dollar for dollar. It's $52 for a dollar of investment. So if we can show people we're actually making people better, we're transforming their health outcomes, their ability to provide materially for themselves and their family, and we're doing it in a highly leveraged way, that's a good sell, right? So we're not just appealing to people to have them feel good. We want them to know we are good. We are good
Yep.
at saving, improving, and transforming as we claim. So it's not just doing the work. We have a team here that studies our outcomes and generates our data that says, hey, You all are doing this really well. So when people say, what's an example of one of those good outcomes? I think I mentioned this to you when we talked offline. So we have an SUD program here. It's one of our most successful programs. It's our drug treatment program. And so we say, hey, are we making people who are suffering from substance use disorder, drug addiction, are we making them better? And I think I told you our 5-year sobriety rate for people who go successfully through that program is in the mid to high 80 percentile. And the national average is somewhere between 40 and 45%. So we're doubling the national average.
Mm.
And so in space that's really hard to win in,
Yeah.
we're winning in it. And we can tell you, we can take you to our alumni picnics where people stand up and say, my name is so and so, I'm 2 years sober, I'm 5 years sober. You'll get people there who'll say, I'm now 30 years sober, thanks to some. So that's the story. But then we got all this data that supports it. So, it's not enough to do well, but you have to be able to do well and then put it in a narrative and then give it to people who are used to looking at metrics, giving them the data that says, because the private equity folks are used to looking at numbers, right? That's why they buy and sell companies, because of the numbers that they see. So we try to appeal to the heart through the narrative, but to the brain through the numbers. So it's my job to make sure we are actually improving lives mentally, medically, emotionally, and spiritually. We're a whole person care model here. We minister to the body, the mind, and the soul. So are we making all those things better? The answer isn't just yes, it's heck yes. Or some people might use a word other than heck. But yeah, we know because we have the stories, but we also have the data.